Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all here on this beautiful day and just to acknowledge what we're here for. And it is because of this school and what has happened historically in all our territories. So I'll begin. I welcome the elders, friends, guests, and most importantly, our survivors of all the residential schools in Canada. Thank you for the opening prayer to our elders and the drum group for the honor song. I always believe it's very important to give thanks and prayers for the good days and the tough ones. This is one of the tough days for all because we've all been affected by colonization and the implementation of these schools. We acknowledge that due to the situation and times, our people, our ancestors, did not have the support or the protection to prevent this from happening, and the most innocent ones of all have bore the brunt of this horrific acts of violence inflicted on them when they were dragged from their homes. We live right in the community, and I would say there's up to 95% of our families, if not 100%, that have been affected by this emotionally, everything, like all the abuses that happened in these schools are very known to everyone in our communities. We all know from the decades since these schools existed what the outcome has been. It's been reflected in our justice systems, in our incarcerations, the hospitals, and lastly, our cemeteries show all the people that have been affected by these schools, by their intergenerational traumas. A brief history of Muskegon. This has been standing since, in its original form here, since 1931. You can see the date on the building. We did have this school, old wooden school here from 1896, and that burnt down. It was completed in 1931. We had our own students from Muskegon and surrounding areas who planted these trees in a line. My own mother, who would have been 95, she planted some of these trees here too as a former student. In 1999, the Muskegon Chief and Council, with support from the community and approximately 330 elders, rejected the federal government's offer to demolish the building with the hope of converting it into a museum, archive, and a place for healing. The body of elders that stated that it would stand as proof to future generations that these schools existed and as a reminder to the government as to what had happened to the children in these facilities. While the preservation project is still being planned, construction is underway nearby on the Muskegon Family and Healing Wellness Center. It's just west of our buildings here. We're doing a family wellness center to reflect what has happened in these schools, to bring families together whereas they were torn apart from their homes. So we're looking at doing a family-oriented center where you would bring the mom, the dad, the children, and bring healing together to our First Nations. It's been a long time coming, and we hope that our federal governments, the funders, will look at this and say, this is what we need. We've been waiting for decades, almost a century from when these schools started to happen. So that's what we're working on right now. It was part of the land, the legacy, to provide a new solution to the journey for healing. While the residential school itself has been closed for decades, the long-term legacy of trauma remains embedded in the lives of First Nations people in the area and those whom attended this school. The center will focus on healing families of the traumas through a cultural responsive approach. And lastly, I will state that I was a former student here in the school too, and I'm so happy to see a lot of the people who attended with me here today. You know, it's proven First Nations people are very resilient to what we can overcome. And being in the community, we see the school every day, and it's just goes to show what Muskegon has accomplished with everything that we've done. With a story from my mother, what she always told is she was put in here when she was 10 years old when her mother passed away. She had 5 younger siblings with her, the youngest being 5 years old. And she said she would see, like, it was a Roman Catholic school when that happened. She said that she saw a nun hit her youngest brother, who was probably 6 years old, after he had to shave his head, and she is whipping him with a strap. And that was extremely traumatic because they had no control over what would happen to children when they were placed in care. My wish is that this will never be forgotten and just shows how far we've come in all of our communities. So thank you for all being here today in support of Kamloops, and like I said, all the other residential schools across Canada. We all share the same stories, and none of it it's a lot of tragedy and sadness that we've had to deal with and live with throughout our lives. And to see the elders here today, you know, that's the greatest thing. And to hear the honor song singing for the graves that were in our community. In 2018, we did a project with the University of Saskatchewan and Alberta. At that time, we didn't even know about ground sonar penetration. And at that time, they came out here because we always knew the history of the school, that there were unmarked graves in our area here. We invited them in, they said, let's do this. And at that time, they uncovered 35 graves. And that has been reported with their equipment that they had. With that, they said they would come back. Of course, COVID hit, and funding is always an issue with universities. So we had a ceremony for our people that we had buried here in the back. Our elders have told us that there's a lot of areas here that haven't been explored yet, and eventually we will do that. And we would like to call on Premier Moe to look at doing that type of work. He did state that all First Nations should be explored for unmarked graves, and I think that's extremely important for all of our provinces, everywhere, right across Indian country, you know. In the United States, there was residential schools to the north of us, everything like that. So thank you all for being here today. I'm very grateful. It was in tribute to all of the residential schools right through Canada, and to give thanks to all the people who helped us do this work. It was a really hectic last 3 days, so so thankful for everyone being here and to honor our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. She said it's a hectic 3 days, last 3 days, because she told us 3 days ago this was going to happen. And but anyway, we had a lot of help. So we're going to go on with our agenda. Funny story, I was busy trying to do the agenda yesterday and help Cynthia. And she was saying lieutenant, and Lieutenant Russ Marasti. So then I was asking our secretary, how do you spell lieutenant? And so I was trying to, you know, spell or even abbreviate lieutenant. So, and anyway, we just like to call our governor, Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, the Honorable Russ Marasti.
Thank you for being here and supporting us. We appreciate it.
Well, tanse, nuakumaran ting totemitek. Dat miskat na rak terapi mamontoik. Naskumagogo, unigani oga piwi samgo ho te piwi tsira poista ta kanoskagi sirak. The elders, senators, thank you for the prayer, elders. Naskumit na omigwich. Chief Cameron, Chief Belrose, and Council, and particularly Councillor Desjardins. I met her several months ago as I was doing some of my own work, and she told me about the work that has been going on here at Muskegon, and that she's already talked about. I'm really pleased to be here today. It's just a wonderful day to travel out from Regina, from my office, and get on the road a little bit. Obviously, with COVID, it's been difficult for everybody, and certainly for us, the majority of our work involves getting out to communities and meeting people and interacting with people, and that has not happened, obviously, for the past year and a bit. So Donna and I are very pleased to be with you here today. I really appreciate it, and I need to say this, the elders speaking in their own language. Given the building that we're standing in front of, where language was lost, where it was suppressed, and I am very grateful, as is Donna, that we were able to retain our Cree language, mine being Woodland Cree and hers being Swampy Cree. But hearing the elder pray in Cree and in Soto really warms my heart, like I say, given the context of this location and today and what it means to us. Thank you again to the community for organizing this. I know from what I just heard 3 days ago, the word was given, we have to come together in support of Kamloops. And it's amazing what we can accomplish when we put our minds to something. And obviously we're motivated by the same thing, to remember and to honor the children that were lost. These young children never to see their relatives and parents and vice versa, obviously. It is a tough time. I'm not going to repeat what Councillor Desjardins spoke about in terms of the long-term impacts, but certainly they persist. In my previous work, I saw the results of communities that were broken, and short-sighted people would say, well, you know, that's just recent problems that have caused that, and we know otherwise. Often called intergenerational impacts. It does go on and on and on, and we have to find a way of stopping that. And that's first step, is doing things like this where we come together and recognize that we have that collective history that belongs to all of us. And certainly once we do that and start to recognize that the impacts have continued and will continue unless something changes, that's the start of understanding. And the sad truth, as was already talked about as well, this isn't the only place. Across the country, there's over 130 residential school sites, and we don't know for certain the number of graves that exist, and in particular the number of unmarked or unknown graves. You know, it's interesting to hear in Kamloops that 51 graves were documented, and now we hear it's 215 and could be more. You know, when I first heard that last week, I didn't know what to feel. You know, number one, why did that happen? And why is it that such a small number is reported as compared to the reality? And that's just one location. We hear commitment to try to resolve that, to come to terms with what the real numbers are, identify the remains, and in many cases repatriate those remains. Lots of work ahead for all communities and governments. So today we remember particularly the children in Kamloops. We mourn with their families and communities, but I know that extends here and elsewhere. You know, I do have, and I don't want to make this too close of a connection, but I'm second generation residential school survivor, having attended in Prince Albert myself for several years in the 60s. But my mother attended as well in La Ronge until the school there burnt down. And they moved all the children to different schools around the province and out of the province. I have relatives that went into Alberta. My mother and two uncles actually came to Gordon's for a year. And then they moved back to Prince Albert once they had room there. So even just that disruption of having to leave home and going someplace totally foreign But I'll tell you this one thing. My mother does recall being invited to a home at Gordon's with some fellow students and how warmly they were treated, even though they weren't from the community, they were from the far north. And she has that fond memory of her experience at Gordon's. But that had nothing really to do with the school, it was more about the people. So, in closing, you know, we honor the children by committing to change. And I say we commit to change. That's all of us. Each and every one of us here, every person in Saskatchewan, every citizen across this country has a role to play in terms of how we come out of this. Creating that understanding, working together to create that future that we all hope and desire for our children. So with that, I want to say again, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate being invited out here, as does Donna. I appreciate the work that you're doing and look forward to coming back to visit and hearing about the work that's ongoing here in your community as well as other communities across the province.
So we're going to ask Chief Bobby Cameron.
He's jumping out of the window.
Oh, there he is. I was looking for him too. I thought he's hiding in the shade over there. So we have 35 moccasins that are on the steps here. That's representing the graves that were uncovered in our school here. So Lori Bear from Gordon's, she made us 35 moccasins within 2 days. So.
Thanks for being here and helping us.
Good morning. Nigan manto, anasumon miogis gome gwats. Higo kipteno, naskom tenigagi sumon, higagi sumuak. Kakio kiteyak hepito ataro spoganak. Mago magantek hepeto tieg, imetset tieg, naskom tenuau. Nagato ke oskayak. Nagato ke awasasak. Nagato ke tapanak. For those that don't know what that means, nagato ke means take care of our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Nagato ke. You know, our ancestors and our knowledge keepers and all those that went through these schools, these residential schools, went through some difficult times and challenges, but they did that for our children to have a better life. See a lot of little babies here in the crowd. Now it's up to us, this generation, to make sure we raise our children in a healthy home, in a home free of alcohol and drugs, in a sober home. A home where we pray every day with one another. Because a family that stays together, prays together. That's what we're teaching our children. Praying is good. And for all of the challenges and the horrible times in these schools, just walking around the grounds this morning, you could feel some of the energy. You can feel the spirit on these lands right now. You can feel some of the healing. When I walked in the back there, I saw a young man by the name of Isidore Poorman. walking up the stairs, and he was telling his story. And he says, I used to walk up and down these stairs to escape and get out of here, to try and sneak away. So Isidore, thank you for sharing that little bit of story, because that's healing when you tell your stories. The work is going to happen on the radar ground searches. It is going to happen. It's going to work. We hope to get it this week, but if not, early next week. We have support from the provincial governments, federal governments. We have the support from our survivors and our chief and councils. We have support from our families to get this work done. But we have a lot of work to do to get our children back home from the social services ministry. They're still taking our children from our homes and our communities. Modern day residential school kidnapping is still happening in First Nation country. And the implementation of Bill C-92, bringing our children home where they rightfully belong. In our First Nation communities, in our language, in our culture, in our tradition and protocols. We have a lot of work to do, and we're going to get there. Because each generation is getting better and stronger. They're getting wiser. And they're learning. They're learning. So thank you to Muskegon leadership. To the people that are here in the circle. For some of us that are of an older generation, in this circle here and now, and all the other residential school sites that are having prayers and vigils and gatherings. Long after we have left this world and this earth, our children and grandchildren and those unborn will understand what our ancestors did to ensure that each of those children had a good life, a proper life, and every opportunity to succeed in life with a proper education built and based around our inherent and treaty rights. Today is a beautiful day. God has given us a beautiful day. Because they tried to take the Indian out of us. And I want to ask everybody in the crowd in this circle, please stand up. Pasago. Pasago. Look around. We're still survivors. The color of our skin and the blood in our bodies tells us we're going to survive and that our children are going to have a better life and a better future. Let's give us all a round of applause this morning. A lot of work to do, and we ask each and every one of you, pray for us. Pray for our families that we get this done right. That we do this properly, and Russ Marasti for being here. They're building a residential monument in the city of Regina. Perhaps they can build one here too, where we can come together and share and heal. Heal together, heal with one another. Hi, hi.
So we're going to have our very own Senator Bill Strongarm from Touchwood Agency Tribal Council.
Good morning. I want to thank the committee for inviting me here. First of all, ninasko ka pikisimutik krite ka pikis ka anusagiska nasko neko nasko mo ka ka pakadina tuapa net anusagiska kinasko tinamo utaka pito tieganos. I want to thank you. I want to thank the committee for giving me a few minutes to speak to you about residence school. I attended the school here, if my good friend Dexter remembers, I think we were on the third floor. That's where the little boys' dormitory was. And it was something that was forced upon us. It was a policy that was arbitrarily developed by the government of Canada to force First Nations to send their kids to school. And the overall policy, my understanding was to remove their identity, to take away their language and their way of life. They actually did more than that. I think they did dehumanize First Nations. They robbed us of our youth. I remember the first time my siblings came home in June. I was going to school that fall. And then, geez, they got home and they were just so happy. And I was looking at them, geez, I'd like to go to that school. And that was this very school, and I got a big shock. I was really totally surprised what happened the first day of school year. Actually, I cried for 30 days for my parents in the school, silently in my bed. So those were the experiences I first encountered as a student here. And I think it was most of the schools were administered and managed by the churches in Canada. If you're Roman Catholic, you went to Roman Catholic school here. If you're Anglican, you went to Gordon. So those were denominations that you're forced to go. I know a Roman Catholic, you couldn't attend the Anglican school. It had to be a Roman Catholic school. And this is where my mother went to school here. My siblings all went to residence school. And I do have some ties to Muskegon. Actually, my mom is from Muskegon. And I got a lot of relatives in Muskegon. So, and the second thing I want to mention is I want to offer my condolences to the families that lost loved ones, that lost a few elders there. And fortunately, I'm related to them, but it's a great loss when you lose somebody at that age, and I just want to offer that. Secondly, I think historically in 1920, the government forced a law through the Indian Act whereby it was unlawful for the parents to not send their kids to school. I think it was mandatory and compulsory that kids from 7 to 15 years had to attend school. And I do remember the situation back in Coactus, where it used to be called Poor Man at one time, that if you didn't send your children to school, you were punished a year or sent or got a fine. And I do remember one family that I did get a fine out there. So it was that mandatory. It was something that our parents were forced to abide by. I do know that there was some stuff that happened, and unfortunately for my family, I had a loved one of my sisters that was assaulted here physically, and she died within 30 days from the injuries. And she's on a list for the murdered residence schools. And the unfortunate thing is my parents didn't see closure to that situation, whereas if they were alive there, they probably would have been, went through some closure to the death of my sister. And the one thing too that happened against us, we couldn't sue the government, because at that time, in 1943, First Nations up to 1952, when the Indian Act was repealed, you weren't allowed a lawyer. you're prevented from seeking legal advice or a lawyer to represent you. That was a sad thing, because I do remember my uncle, who was one of the hereditary headmen, trying to seek a lawyer, and he isn't coming to our first stage and say, hey, you're disallowed, they told him, to hire a lawyer. And that's where it ended. And it was a move that kind of destroyed our language, our way of life. Our language primarily is a really special language that you need to learn, that young people need to learn. Because every word in our Cree language or Tsuut'ina language has a special and sacred meaning. You dissect a word and it means something special. You don't get that kind of teaching at the university. You get teachings and that from elders that know the language. And it's something that we should learn for the youth. It's a way of healing. And I do know a few, I'll give you an example of the word awasis. Awa it comes from a root word awahin, means borrowed. Sis is a light. In actual meaning of that word awasis means borrowed light. So the children, our belief, the children are born right here. So you have to look after welfare. You have to nurture them. So it's our duty to look after these rare people. I know it's a legacy, a negative legacy left by the Roman Catholic Church and that, and I was involved with the ground penetrating radar they had here, that imaging over a few years back, and they did find some sites where there's a possible youth buried under there. But anyway, I know it's a hard time, and it's something that I try to live. I probably won't be well when I go to the spirit world, and because it'll take more than that to heal me. You know, I still have the impacts of residence school. I see it every day in our community, so it's there, and we gotta. I think it's for us to heal our own self, to heal our families. I really like golf, and I kind of like to sing, because my whole family golfs. A family that golfs together stays together.
Thank you, Senator. Awesome.
Thank you, Senator. We have one more senator from the Saskatoon Tribal Council, Senator George Pies.
Watch this little bump there, you might.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, leaders that are here, the leadership. Chief Bobby, where are you? Having a rest in a bush road, I guess. Yeah, I want to thank the people for being invited here. I was a student here way back. I left this place in 1956. 65 years ago, I walked out of here with a grade 8. Not a whole lot for what we went through. But first, I want to talk about these children that are discovered in a gravesite in BC. I heard of something like that before this. There's a residential school in BC that didn't have a playground, but had a gravesite, a graveyard. I didn't know if that was true or not. This might be what was being talked about back then. But to find 215 little ones laying there, who knows who they are, or their parents probably all gone. And when they do identify them, who is their relative to put away the remains? It's sad. This place here was not that, it wasn't bad. I had some bad memories. I have some really good memories. And I had some crazy ones too. When you spend that many years with the same guys. You know, I played hockey for the residents here. I'm the only one alive from that 1956 hockey team that we had. The last one that passed on, I think, was Lloyd Union from Caucasus. That was my teammate. Same with baseball. I think they're all gone. It's sad to see, but that's the way life goes. I want to encourage the people of Muskegon. In fact, I want to encourage everybody to try to retrieve your language. If I went to an Indian reserve, any reserve, and asked how many people under 50 can talk their language fluently, I wouldn't find one reserve that has that. Every reserve is losing, and we're losing them fast. We tried to retrieve our language back at Yellow Quill School. We had 4 Soto teachers, but we didn't get funded. You know the reason for that, eh? So Senator Bill was talking about the detribalization program of the government, 1947. The plan to get rid of Canada's Indian problem within 25 years, 1969, accelerate that 1947 plan, and on it goes. And today, it's still working, that detribalization. I ask leaders, fight back. No more of that. We've had enough of it. We've had too many leaders pass on without achieving what they wanted to do. Let's help them, all the leaders, and certainly the people that will encourage our senators to work hard to get back our way of life, not only our language, but our way of life. I'm not going to say too much more. It's kind of sad to think of the little ones. What kind of lawyers now the Indian Affairs are going to use to deny that? Because that's what they did. They used mean lawyers denying that we suffered in these places. No, you didn't. I had a busted eardrum from somebody slapping me from the back because they heard me talking Soto. And I was lying when I told that to government. My eardrum is still busted. And I got that from here when I was a child. Now, they found, Bruce, what are lawyers going to say? No, that didn't happen. You're lying. I wonder what the interference are going to do. They're going to hold, they're going to lower flags down half-mast. What for? This thing already happened. And how many other times did it happen throughout history? I'm going to cock out on you guys. Can never not come in.
You're getting hungry and trying to, Emergency Travel Council.
Siya nas kumatin kitiyak mina kiti anis nape. Ay mas kena kumatin tamak. Weekend kinusata mek ay kinuwak mina wasak penusiyak. I want to thank all of the speakers here, our elders this morning during the opening prayer. I want to thank our elders for these generations of keeping our spirituality, our language, our culture very much alive. I want to pay tribute to all the mothers and the grandmothers and to the great-grandmothers whose children never came home, whose children were taken from their arms, from their homes, from their families, from their communities. I want to thank Chief Cameron for bringing a reality to life, the similarity between the residential school and child and foster care, a continuation of another intergenerational system that has been a continuing on for the future of our children. That has to stop. Last week, our human resource person, Linda, sent a poster out about the 215 children that lost their lives. I got so angry. I felt the anger. I started thinking about my mom and my kokum. My mom was Mary Irene Wolf. My kokum is Madeline Aiken, Louise. I started thinking about all of the children that were scooped up. And I said, when does justice ever happen for our people? When do our people start living with the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the cultural genocide? When do we as people start following our life as spiritual individuals that are ancestors who suffered and sacrificed their life by putting these systematic policies and institutions into place that work so hard for the genocide of our people? What did these little babies do to deserve to be taken from their mother's arms and placed into a place that was unknown to them? I have, my late husband was Edward Angus Dishley. I heard his story. I still have his IAP disclosure. I sat with my mom when she was going through the IAP process. And they told her, you could get a lot of money for your story. 4 times I sat with my mom and she was talking about this place. the things she went through here. Finally, she told me, and she said, do I have to do this? I told her, no, Mom, you don't have to do this. It's a very difficult time in her life. I really want to thank Grey Buffalo for singing the morning song and sending our babies home. Even the ones and the others that have not been found here yet. I have raised 33 grandchildren from my late husband. That spirituality is important to each and every one of us. We pray that tutawi non samantu wichin kanastata mekai mek maskana wichin. Wichin mamachamitu in mina sakitin mina sawimitin. We need to practice our love and care for each other. I have a little girl that was given to me. She was 2.5 months. I raised her as my own daughter. Child and family came and I wouldn't let them in. My family told me that you lived your life, you shouldn't be raising someone else's children. I told them, get the hell out of my house, brother, if you can't respect my decision. My kokum taught me about love and care and kindness and respect. She taught me how to love others, even though they're not your biological relative. Again, they sent someone again from Child and Family. They said you could get money for that little girl. And I said, if that little girl needs anything, then I will go without. I kept that little girl out of the Child and Family Service system. She's 31 years old today. Now I'm doing second generation. I have her little kids. I'm battling to keep them out of Child and Family. They're in care right now. And I said, no, I refuse to sign the papers. I'll look after them myself. I don't want them feeling all those of disconnect. The most important thing is to show that love. Today we deal with a lot of chronic disease, sickness, illness, disease, addictions, poverty, homelessness, overcrowdedness. We deal with all these things. I have a chronic disease working group. I went and sat with my elders last night. One of them is Tom Favel and Verna Favel. They start talking about this place, the purpose of what was going to happen. And we need to practice our spirituality first and foremost. We got to learn to love ourselves so we could love others unconditionally. You don't need to get paid to look after your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. Take them in. If we're going to beat that child and family welfare, what the government did to disconnect us from our culture, our ancestry, our spirituality, our way of life, open up your arms in honor and memory of these little ones that have lost their lives from their relatives, their mom, their dad, their kokum, their mushum. I'm going to share something with you. My kokum always used to sing first. And this is an honor. We get comforted. And I hope this will bring comfort to those. And I'm speaking as a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother. I also spend a lot of time, on my own time, working with inner city. I sit on a board in Regina and been there right from 1993. And this is in honor of all of those that lost their lives in the cities, trying to find a better way of life than reserves. If you look at all these trees around, and even in your community, we have our own spiritual way. We have our own systems that comes from the environment the Creator honored us with. And just remember, life is precious, sacred. We're here to witness and support all these children and all of our children that have left before us. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Please wrap your arms out forward. And we're going to embrace all of our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren into the future with spirituality, with culture, with language, with love, caring, kindness. Sametuan, hey, hey.
So we're going to get Councillor Holly Geddes to come and do some acknowledgements of the people that are here. But first, I just want to acknowledge the helpers that helped to make this day happen. You know, it's a lot of work that we had to do, and we only had 3 days, like I said, to prepare. And so we had a lot of people working, you know, steady. And so just want to take this quick time here to thank Wendell and her group. They made all the ribbons, these ribbons that you are wearing, Wendell Wendigo and her group. I want to thank my husband, Jimmy. He's the one that did all the decorations. Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. My husband, Jim Desjardins, he's the one that made the signs, and we made the T-shirts, and so all the helpers there, I just want to thank Chloe and Cam Ray, Margaret Hunter, Marlene Albert, Darlene Desjardins. Those are the ones that helped us, and then all the ladies that pitched in at the last minute here to get them up in the trees. I just want to thank you all. Want to thank my brother-in-law, Mark Desjardins. He did all the cleaning here, along with Mitchell Kate, Jeremy Desjardins, my son Jeremy Desjardins, Jake Desjardins. I just don't know if I'm missing anybody. Tracy Pambin, of course. She was helping with organizing, and they're doing all the prevention, Touch with Child and Family Service prevention team that's doing all the cooking over there. And I just don't even know who else. I hope I'm not missing anybody, but you know that we're very thankful to all of you that come out here and come and help make this day a beautiful success. And so I'm going to just call on Holly. Oh, I have one more first, okay? Sorry, I just have one more speaker, Roland Desjardins. It's my brother-in-law, Roland. He just wants to say a couple words, but I just want to acknowledge my sister-in-law, Gloria Poorman, too, because in 2006, we had a residential school workshop similar to this, but we had a lot of elders. We had over 300 elders that come from all the 7 bands and come and had a workshop here, and that's where the information came. When we put out an evaluation at the end of our workshop that time, we asked if this school should be ripped down or should it stand. And over 300 elders said to leave it stand, like Cynthia said. And there was only 3 of them that asked it to be torn down. And unfortunately, those 3 was from our reserve because they probably see it every day as they travel through here. But we had a wonderful elders at that time. And it just so happens that a tornado came when we had that workshop. And we had tents and teepees set up down in the park area there. And so the storm was getting worse and worse, and we were running all the elders to the school. And just when we got the last elder in the school, it was just, it come and it just ripped up everything in the grounds. So I'm thankful today of the nice weather. You know, it's a beautiful weather out here. But I just want to thank Gloria too for her part in this. So, and I think she's here somewhere too. So Roland, we'll just get Roland to say a couple words here.
Thank you very much, Marie, and thank my Uncle John and his wife for being here, for saying the prayers. I want to thank the dignitaries that are here, and I want to thank the chief and the council that provided all the what is going on here today. I want to thank my brother here that was born and raised around here, and we used to work in the yard in the summertime for nothing, and for some reason or not, he doesn't believe he still lives here for some reason. He's still working in the yard here. Nobody told him that it's time to go home. And so one of the truths is that we have is that I was born and raised here with my brother and some of my family members. And we spent 15 years in the yard, about 100 yards from here. And my Uncle John and his father helped put up a lot of these trees along with my own dad. And in the 2 sides, on each side of the fields beyond the trees, there was a lot of gardens there, potato gardens and fruit and vegetable. We spent a lot of years in those gardens over there. I've got friends over here from Gordon's here that was also lived here. Eddie better knows that was born and raised around here also. And we're all elders now, and my family who came here, their family were fluent Cree and fluent Sato. And when my mom and dad had left, they were actually so traumatized, they were taught not to teach their children languages. So today, I'm 71 years old and I know very little of my own language. And the problem with that is that I have grandchildren and I have great-grandchildren. I am not going to be able to teach them absolutely nothing except when we have lunch to say, mitso, it's time to eat. That's the only thing I could teach them. In the school where I was here, we spent a lot of time, and a lot of us don't know what we did wrong. But we were taken to the barns and strapped by huge straps. And many of us had wet our beds. And so we would be paraded downstairs. We would carry our sheets. And in the middle of while the people were eating, that's the dining area. Down in that area down below there, that's the dining area. And we would stand in the middle of those while the people, the boys and the girls were having lunch. We would stand in the middle. We were told to put our sheets up over our heads and stand there while our friends were having lunch. And so that's some of the things that happened to us, besides having a strap and not knowing what we did wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. We're trying to learn from my friend over here, George P.A.'s, trying to teach other guys how to speak English. And if he got caught trying to teach somebody how to speak Sato, well, they'd take him aside and beat him up. And that was basically totally normal for somebody to do that. And the other part of getting caught is that you'd either get the strap and get your hair shaved right off like a bald head, basically. And everybody laughed at you because you did something wrong. And you didn't really do anything wrong. And so very quickly, and I thank everybody and thank Marie for offering me this a couple of minutes here. And hey.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, so we're going to get Councillor Holly to do the final acknowledgements of the crowd and the people that are here. And then if anybody wants to take a walk to the pillars, there's some of the people that are going to walk to the pillars and back before lunch. If you want to walk, you can walk. But if it's too hot, you can just stay and eat.
Magwitch, Anin, my name is Holly Geddes. I'm a counselor for our nation. I welcome you to our nation, Muskegon First Nation. I'm a residential school survivor, as was my grandmother. I'm honored to be here today to remember those 215 children that were found. I was numb when I heard of it. I didn't know how to articulate how I felt. All of a sudden, all the stories my grandmother had told me were true. 3 days ago, I realized the horror stories she told me were true. And yet at the moment when she was telling me those stories, I'd tell her, "Go cuckoo, don't say that. People aren't like that. That can't be true." I feel guilty. I didn't believe her. I believe her today. I want to thank our counselor, Cynthia Desjardins, for all her work in healing our community. Our counselor, Karen Marie Desjardins, for all her work in healing our community. I want to thank Chief Bobby Cameron for stepping up today. When we need a leader, he's here. Magwitch. I want to thank the rest of my fellow counselors that are here. Leon, Jamie. I can't say too much, but to the staff, without you, things like this don't happen. We as leaders are decision makers. You're the doers. Give yourself credit sometimes. Too often we're angry with each other. When families are suffering, grandmothers are hurting, sometimes we gotta forgive, because forgiveness is what's gonna set us free. I'm not angry with the church. I forgive them. I'm not angry with the government. All I want is to be acknowledged. My musham told me the only way we'll heal is when the truth is told in Turtle Island. Not only Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people alike need to know the truth, the history of this land. That's only when we're going to heal, he told me, and I believe him. With that, I want to thank some people that have come today. Our elder, Rose and Dexter, Stuart Bitternose, our counselors from Gordon's Co-op, Daystar. Without you, always supporting us, I don't know where we'd stand today. Thank you, leadership from our territory. Thank you for leadership from around the province. Pat Young, Tom Pombrin, Eddie Bitternose, Roland Desjardins, Jim Desjardins, Alvin Campbell, Pauline Moise, Verna Cachane, Leon McNabb, Elaine Severate, Morris Wolf, Kenny Mentopies, Olive Pratt, to our TCFS director, Charlene Asham, Magwitch for being here, Tracy Desjardins, Justice, Val Desjardins, Justice and Health, Magwitch. Sharon Windigo, our principal, is here. Magwitch Sharon for being here. Your presence is greatly appreciated. With that, I'm going to read some words. Grey Buffalo they made a song 24 hours ago in honor of the 215 students. And all the students that are buried behind our school, behind every residential school across this country. There's bodies of children laying there. The government can deny it all they want. But Grey Buffalo, they made a song, and I want to read the words for you in English so that you understand how we're healing today. And with that, I want to say Magwitch to Grey Buffalo. There are neighbors from Gordon's who always support us in funerals. Anything traditional, they're always here. I'm very grateful for Jeff and his family. With that, I'll read the words. I got to take off my glasses because I'm old. There's no words for what they did to you. All we have to do is pray. We all stand strong, mourning for you as you make your journeys home. We will stand together in honor of your lives. Those are the words that Grey Buffalo will sing now. Magwitch.